Hello everyone. So today we got to play City of Iron. So this is by the Red Raven producer, which also produced
Ryan the Cot, the same person that makes
Above and Below,
Near and Far.
Near and Far, that series, which we've liked in the past. So I was actually kind of excited about playing this. Um, so basically, you are a head of a civilization, and you are in charge of citizens and an army unit, and you slowly build up your citizens, which are cards, and you slowly build up your military, which is also cards that you can play to you can explore to find different settlements, which and then or conquer cities or build buildings in your city, and all of those things can contribute to gaining you resources. Which, if you have the most resources of a kind at certain scoring rounds, then you get victory points and income for having the most of those things. Um, so that's the general synopsis of the game. So we can go straight into quality of pieces. What did you think?
The cards are nice stock. They got texture. They're pretty. All of the Lacotte games always have a common light, whimsical feel to them, which is always fun. But that'll be more themed. But as far as the actual stock, the cards are really good. The player boards are a little thin. These are not thick quality cardboard.
Yeah, they already kind of start to curl.
Yeah, they're not great. The coins are pretty thick cardboard. If we generally don't even use those, but today I just was in the mood to go not bother getting out the other coins, but they're pretty good quality. Really nice board. The board.
I really like the board.
Yeah, I don't like the finish on it. This is kind of more like the Kickstarter finish almost, but it's not really nicely textured. It's pretty smooth. But,
I like that though.
It's not as good of a quality as what a lot
of the
other boards
extra
are.
city tiles are fine
Yeah.
As far as thickness goes. I mean, overall quality, I think everything's functional. You still got wooden cubes. Is there anything outstanding about any of this? No. So what would you give it as a score?
Probably a 7. There's nothing real exciting about any of it. The cards are the best part, and it's more the theme, I think, than the quality themselves.
So I agree with that. So let's jump into theme. Um, I I love the maker of this and what the creation that he's made, because these all kind of seem very similar.
Yeah, they all have
they're cohesive.
They're cohesive. Yeah, he always uses like he's almost got created these little races of creatures, and there's always the frogmen, and there's always it's always very cartoonish and light, but yet it's taking kind of heavier themes and making them lighter, and I appreciate that. It's a lot. They're fun to play. This one's a little different than the others, because the others all have like the story mode, which it kind of happens, which this one doesn't, which I kind of felt I wish I had it did. But.
Yeah, and my thing is though that he is very cohesive in the series of the games that he's making, and it all has the same iconography, and there's a lot of similar concepts throughout the games. So if you pick up one, going to the next game isn't nearly as difficult as learning it, kind of cold. So there's an aspect, and just the general feel of it. It feels like we're in a world whenever we play any of his games, and like we see the world. So for theme, I think this is rates really high, because there's this world, knowing that when I see his name on a box and the style of art, I'm like, okay, I'm going into that world again. And I've had some very fond memories in that world, so it makes me kind of excited. So if you could give it a number, what would you give it?
I think his game's probably. In general, I think an 8 is probably a good score for the theme. Um, if this one, I think I would stick it at 8. From there, it would be like, does it do anything special, and go up from there. So it's kind of like basically the baseline for his games is an 8 almost. But this one, I don't see anything that it has less of the feel and the theme than to me than the others do. So I think an 8 is probably.
And I think that's the thing. If we're just talking about this game, I think an 8 is accurate. But if you talk about the world he's created through games, then we would be talking about something
exactly.
different. And so I think an 8 is appropriate for this particular game because there's not as much of that story mode, like
Right.
you mentioned, that draws you into that world.
Yeah, this one is definitely touching the surface of the world. I think this is one of his earlier ones. This is not, I think he built from here. So this
Okay.
is, I think, is part
That
of the
makes a
reasoning.
lot of sense. But definitely, if we were judging his collection of work, it would be a lot different than just this game. But I think an 8 is good for this.
Yeah. Let's see, what year was this? 2016. So yeah, I think the Above and Below and Near and Far came out after 2016.
Okay. So next thing is to rules. How were the rules?
The rules were pretty straightforward. I mean, this is kind of hard to assess in the sense that we read this like almost a month ago and then came back to it. But I mean, I did refresh my view on it. It has a lot of nice descriptive of each of the icons. There's a lot of images, descriptions of all the cards, how they work, the player boards, and everything, how that works. It really was pretty easy to read. I mean, it's all large font print, laid out very nicely, sequentially. There's a reference and index on the back if you need to look up anything. Um, Oddly, they jump from this large font to, in the last 2 pages, this smaller font. I don't know if you ran out of space. It's the only thing I would take away from this on, because otherwise the book is really nicely done until you get to the last 2 pages and it's like, let's just cram everything in there really good quickly, because this is like the card abilities and they shrunk it in really, to save, I guess, a page or something. So I would say it's probably an 8 as well.
Okay.
I might have given it higher if it hadn't been for that last little thing they did on the last 2 pages.
Okay. I trust your judgment because, as we
Yeah.
know, I don't read rules.
Read the rules, so I can say it's a 200.
I don't think that's an option when you're doing a square out of 1 and 10. So let's talk about gameplay. So there's a lot of interesting mechanics here, especially the scoring mechanism. Because it's almost like a set collection, but it's slightly different. So you're trying to collect a bunch of different resources, but have the most in those resources to be able to get the most victory points out of it. So it's like, it kind of wants you to stretch and get as many resources as you can, but you still got to be the best at it. So I think that's an interesting play on the set collection.
That, and the fact that you can use money to buy it in science, the two resources together, to buy the resources you need, or you can do military and conquer territories to get those resources, which that's similar to what Ascension does as far as, but it really treats military there in Ascension as just another money format. Here it's actually, you're conquering a land and you're using that as a buildup. It doesn't feel quite the same as what Ascension does as far as it being money. Not to mention they added the distance aspect to it, which is kind of cool.
And it takes a lot of cards to conquer.
Yes.
But at the same time, money's not easy to get a hold of either. So the resources are very limited in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not oppressively so, like depressing wise, but enough to make it a struggle. And you really have to contemplate, okay, where am I going to get that one other coin?
And I found the money and military to be less of a restriction, more so the turn count. Because basically this game's over way too fast.
Way too fast.
But that's common to Lecoq games. I mean, almost every one of them, it feels like it's done way too soon. But this one, you only get 3 actions per round, and there's only 7 rounds to get all your scoring in. And you invariably need to do a lot of things each round, and you can never do everything you need to do.
Well, see, I didn't necessarily have that problem. I ran out of resources with the odd, like, it took a lot of planning for me, but of course you build up your engine a little bit faster. Like, you had a higher money production at the beginning than I did, so I was struggling with resources.
I was struggling with places to build things because I was running out of space, and in order to, that's another thing that happens in this game, is you're limited to the number of things you can buy or things you can take on, because
each city
only can hold 5 from the very beginning, and you can upgrade it to 8, and you can add other things to it to make it a little bit higher than that. But it takes actions to do that, and you only get 3 per round. So you've got to decide, am I going to build up my territory or am I going to acquire things? And if you acquire things too fast, like I did, you can run into a bind just the same as if you didn't acquire things that didn't have the resources. So there's a lot of restrictions in when you play. And as it turned out, the cards, the way they fell for territories I didn't know because there's land types in this too. So the cities you have will have icons on them to tell you what types of buildings you can build. And if you don't have the right icons, you can't build the cards. And
Yeah, there was one round that really hit me really hard.
yeah, that hit me hard in the last 3 rounds, and that's what really cost me the game.
You should have explored a different
I didn't have much choice. That was the problem. I mean, there was a couple of times I could have. I made the mistake one time of not bringing an explorer into my deck. That was a big thing.
I was completely okay with it.
And we should point out that this is a deck building game too. So you start out with a very rudimentary deck of cards, and you only actually get to draw like 1 or 2 of those cards depending on your character that you play. Each character has some variable powers and abilities, and you don't start out with the characters you need in order to expand. So if you want to expand, you're going to have to build up your deck as well, which is more actions you need.
Yeah, well, but you've also got to adjust it because you also have to be able to draw the cards. And
right.
How do you draw the cards? So you got to make sure you have enough. You got to build buildings that'll let you draw the cards. So it's just there is a lot to manage in this game, and it pays to be as diverse as possible. I feel like, which you typically find not to be the case in some games. Some games it's just like do something really really well, or do this. It's okay, I got to do all the things. How do I do all the things?
and the decks, and one of the interesting aspects of the game is you don't shuffle your deck. You get to determine your deck order. So when you place the cards down, you get to place them in the sequence you want, and you never shuffle. So whenever you run out of cards to draw from, you just flip the deck over and draw from what the order you put them in. So there's some strategy in when you play the cards and put them into your discard pile and the sequencing that you put them in, which also plays in. There's just a lot of elements to this game for being as simple of a rule set as it has.
Yeah.
And I didn't manage it well at all this first playthrough.
We weren't too far apart.
Well, it's a low-scoring game, too.
Oh, yeah, if you consider that aspect of it. But I'll tell you one thing, though. With this series, I feel like we've played this game before, and you insist that we haven't. But I remember...
You might have played it before.
I remember buying these. I remember going out and searching for these. So unless this is in some other...
You might have played it. I don't know. I've not played it.
Because this looks very familiar, and when you were explaining
given the fact that I punched out things as I was doing it, you either played somebody else's copy or...
I mean, I'm not saying that's... It may have happened at a con or something.
Yeah, I was saying, I don't think you played it with me.
So I was just like, I feel like I've played this before, but I don't know if it was one of his other games, because like I said, they use the same iconography, the same symboling. So
well, it definitely wasn't near or far or above and below. We know that. Because we played above and below, and near and far we got it to the table, we never played it, but we set it onto the table.
Yeah.
Those two are distinctly different from this.
Andrew's been wanting to play that.
Yeah.
So, so let's give this a score.
This is going to be a tough one because I don't feel like I got enough exposure to the game to really get the feel.
It ends too short.
It's too short.
That's our biggest complaint. It was too short.
But honestly, I think that's the intent. Is again, these games are designed such you build your engine up as quickly as possible and get benefit from it as quickly as possible. Same thing we talked about with It's a Wonderful World. It's designed for your engine to fail or the game to be over before your engine's really fully running.
See, and I hate to say this, but I like games that give me the time to build that engine and play with you. It's like, I get to build this really cool thing, and then you build it, and you're like, game's over, and you're like, I didn't even get to use it. What purpose is that? Like, for me, that's something that I enjoy. I want to enjoy the thing that I built, at least for a round or two.
Yeah. So, I mean, it doesn't bother me because I'm used to that. Whenever there's an engine like that it's all about getting as many points as quickly as possible from what you can through your engine, and so it doesn't bother me. I'm going to give this an 8. I think I think I like Above and Below from the story mode better, but that isn't what this game's about. This game is about the deck building, and I like that. It has a lot of things in it that I like. I was just frustrated that I didn't put those pieces together very well in this game. But that is actually a good thing because that means I want to play it again and try it to actually get it the pieces in the right places.
Yeah. The thing is, I'm thinking about the score and I'm trying to give it a number. And honestly, my biggest complaint is that it wasn't long enough. And I figure if that's the complaint, it means I want to play it longer.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I agree with an 8. I mean, I think it's a little short for me. But it's got plenty of meat to it. Like, there's plenty of stuff to do. So, I always like games that are like that. I just, like, can we add like 3 more rounds and call it a day? No? Okay.
No, we should play by the rules. I mean, in this case, I almost agree with you that I'd like to have more time, but honestly, I don't think it would have changed a whole lot. Because also, you would have to add it. When do you score it? Then you got to figure that out.
Well, it's every 3 rounds you score. So
no, it's 3, 2, and 2 in the game. So.
Oh, well then just do, okay, we do 2 more rounds and then score the second round. But we ran out of, well, we just reshuffle. There you go. That's not how it works.
No, well, actually, that is exactly how that part works. If you run out of cards, you do reshuffle and put them back out. But we never ran into that problem. I will say we played it 2-player. It felt like it should not be a 2-player game.
Yeah.
There was, especially choosing turn order. That piece was really not well handled for a 2-player game.
Yeah.
So I would recommend, if you're going to play this game, play it with 3 or 4 players. It's designed for that. It's not really.
It was okay to play. It was
okay with 2. It just felt like there were some holes.
I think the major hole was the turn ordering, because it's either, because let's be honest, you got to choose first, you got the extra coin, and if you were second, you went.
Yeah, we never varied. You could vary if you're just desperate to go first.
But there was nothing
no reason. There was nothing that exciting. I mean, the fact is, there were enough choices with 2 players that there was nothing to say, oh, I absolutely have to go first, because there's always an option B that's almost as good as option A out there. So I really don't see the turn order being a significant factor
if you're playing
2-player. With 3 or 4 players, I think it's going to be much more interesting, much more cutthroat. Also, you have steal cards from other players. We never did that because we're not real competitive and attacky like that.
Oh, we're competitive.
And I actually, live with my wife, and I don't want to not live with my wife.
He's a smart man.
I actually like either one. I might be, could be life, could be wife. I don't know. Either way, we don't attack each other mostly because I don't want to face the repercussions of it. But
he knows me so well.
Yeah, but also it's not something. I mean, it's not something that was even really that relevant because I never had the cards that I needed to do it, or there was other options that were.
Dude, attacking was hard. I mean, that was like I got 1, 2, 3, 4 different cards.
You were definitely more prepared for that than I was.
But let me tell you something. It took everything I had. I mean,
which is why I was generating more money all the time, because you were focused on doing other things, whereas I was building up money.
Well, this game really is. You got to do all the things.
Yeah, you have to You have to at least have your exploration engine built while you're also doing your money. You don't necessarily have to attack the cities, but it helps.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess you could just focus on buying, but at the same time, you need.
Yeah, I mean, either way, you won, so your strategy paid out way better than mine did. So.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do all the things in this game, is what I feel like. So, and then I also got really lucky that I got all of my tile bonuses.
You got all your tile bonuses, and also all your cards that dropped were desert, and I had nothing to do with desert.
No, I didn't play one desert. I had the city, but I didn't.
Well, but all the cards that were coming up were desert cards. I mean that.
Yeah, but the problem is they required the science thing, and that is hard to come by.
Yeah, science is basically a monetary value, along with your money that you have to spend on a lot of the cards. So it's important when you're playing to build up your science along with the money. Now, you do get the perk that once you build a card of that type, if you build future cards of that type, you don't have to apply science to the cost anymore.
But the problem is like, if you do that, like if you're already winning in salt, why buy more salt?
With 2 players, that's the case. But again, if you had more players, that would become less. That's true.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. But there are some of the higher level ones, if you reach a certain level, you get bonus victory points for being a high level.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, that's what the little
Aw.
shields are for. We never reached any of them, but
Oh, I got clothes
you got clothes
on the
yeah,
octopus.
and here. But
Oh.
yeah, so
Well, bummer.
so there is some value to increasing your score even in
I
a
would've-
2-player, but it would definitely be more relevant when you've got 3 or 4 people all vying for the same resource.
Yeah, I could have gotten it. I didn't realize that I went a different route. I didn't realize that was a thing. I think I got more victory points the way I did it anyway, though. So overall, I think this was definitely a fun game. It definitely had a stalking, and
Yeah, I mean,
Sure,
I don't personally think it's as engaging as Above and Below, or
it doesn't have that
Fire.
story element
Yeah.
to it.
But I think that's what, like I said, this is a precursor to that, and I think that that he added that to this, and that takes it to that next level. So when you see our review of those, whenever we get around to them, you'll probably see a little higher score on those.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if someone's like, "Hey, we're gonna have a game day all around his work," I'd be like, "What?"
Yeah, it would definitely not hurt my feelings.
No, it absolutely
They're
would
all
not.
fun and thematic games.
Fantastic. So again, thank you guys so much for joining us. If you like what we do, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you'd like to see more of our work. We really appreciate you guys hanging out with us tonight, and we hope to catch you later.
Bye.
Bye.